Hello, mighty warriors. This is Alicia, and welcome back to my channel. Today is Passover and the second day of Passover, and this is my first time as a Christian observing Passover. But I tell you, I've learned some lessons already, and I wanted to share those with you today because out of my failure, because really I've been failing in this first attempt. I want to share what I've learned, and it's always a blessing when you can learn something out of your failure. So, I want to talk about preparation for Passover. So, when I decided to do it, I had watched, actually, there was a service at my church where we had a guest, and she talked about all of the Christian symbolism in the Passover Seder. And she gave us a little pamphlet, and, I kind of, tucked that in my heart. And then recently, it just kind of came over me that I wanted to celebrate it. A couple of things just made me want to observe it. However, I wasn't really aware of all that was required beforehand. And one of those big things that you have to prepare for and that you need in preparation for Passover is the clearing out of all leaven out of your home. And so, like, I think I decided maybe, I it was on my calendar and it was on my radar, but I really didn't start like seriously deciding to do it until maybe a couple of days prior. And then it was like, I got to get prepared, right? And so as I was researching preparation, it became clear that I was going to need to completely clean my house of all leaven. Okay. Now, granted, I'm the only one in the household who is observing Passover. Like, I'm not putting my children or my husband or anything on the this particular Passover. I'm not gonna make them do it. I wasn't gonna make them do it because it was something that I personally wanted to observe. But then I started thinking about all the things that I was going to need to throw away. And then I started reading a little bit more about the preparation, and I started to read about all the things that I need to clean and how thoroughly I need to clean them. I mean, we're talking light fixtures, corners, and I realized my vacuum was broken, and I was like, okay, so what am I going to do there? And then I realized I didn't think that I had the time to put that I needed, that was required to really get in there and clean the way that I needed to clean, right? And then I started to feel defeated, like, Lord. And so I went to the Lord and I prayed, and I was like, Lord, I know that you're not to be trifled with, and you have ways that you want to be worshiped, and ways that we are to observe your word. And I don't want to go haphazard with this. I don't want to do this halfway. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to cancel it. And, that way I don't offend you. I really didn't want to offend him. Right. Because I mean, at this point in my walk with him, you just, if you've been reading your Bible, you know that he has a way that he wants things done. And if you can't do them, then, in the Old Testament, you got the knife, right? But as a Christian, I asked the Lord to give me grace as a Christian observing, and not being perfect with the observance, with the understanding that I know it's falling way below his standard, right? And so I was going to cancel, and then I felt the Lord kind of give me a nudge to keep going. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to fail my way through this, I'm going to try my hardest to continue the 7 days. And I'm going to, do my best. And as I was, preparing the Seder plate, and I mean, there's a lot to preparing for Passover. I mean, first, there's the cleaning of the house thoroughly. You kind of need your whole family involved. It needs to be a family affair. And this is something else. It kind of opened my eyes to why we should not be unequally yoked. I mean, if you're in a household that is celebrating the Passover, it needs to be a family affair. Everybody needs to be involved. Even, when you're sitting down at the Seder meal and the father is passing the stories down to the whole family. This is an important, serious, ritual where you are passing down the oral history and the biblical truth of what God did through the Exodus, and for Christians, the Exodus from the slavery of sin, right? I mean, when you're actually going through the process, boom, 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 my lights were just going off. Just revelation was coming to me, because I was like, yeah, this is why. Because you can't, if this is something the whole family needs to be committed to, the whole household needs to be committed to, right? And you can't have people in the household who aren't committed to it, because then they'll be bringing leaven into your house, right? Or they'll be bringing things that you're supposed to be getting rid of. Imagine that you're trying to observe a leaven-free Passover, but you have people in your life who are not respecting or observing that with you. Okay, so that was one of the first kind of revelations that was coming to my mind. But then also, leaven is a metaphor for sin, right? And so as I begin to think about, just first I started thinking about the food leaven that I needed to get rid of. And but leaven is not just in your food. There are different types of leaven. There's corn starches, and there's baking powders, and baking powder and baking soda are in bath products and bath bombs. And you have other types of things in your household that have these things in them. And then I started to think about all the things that possess and contain leaven, and as a metaphor for sin, it just made me think about how this world is full of sin, and it's infused into everything, and getting it all out is next to near impossible. I mean, you can try with all your might, but you will never be able to rid yourself and your environment. You'll never be able to rid your environment of all the wickedness that has been infused into our world because of the fall of man. And then that got me thinking about how, as a human being, how we are supposed to be in the world but not of the world, how we have to learn how to set ourselves apart from all of those things. We have to learn to recognize sin for what it is. And even though we live in an environment that is filled with it and infused with it, it's on our television screen, it's on our radio, it's in our books, it's in our music, it's everywhere. You can't go anywhere without being bombarded with things that the Lord has specifically and explicitly told us to stay away from or to watch out for. And it gave me a lot of insight into how, as a Christian, we are to try to cleanse ourselves, make our body a living sacrifice, and make ourselves holy, and try not to bring those sinful things into our body, not to engage in those sinful behaviors, and make our body a sacrifice for him, because he lives in us. And if our body is our temple, then, is our temple clean? Is it in a position that he can be in there and be comfortable? But as we live in this world, it kind of gave me insight into how I should better walk in the world, a world where, sin is around every corner. Because a part of the Passover ritual is that you not only, you're cleaning out leaven everywhere, you're cleaning your light fixtures, but then you need to get in there. You need to get to every corner. You need to get to every nook and cranny. You need to get in there and rid yourself. And it costs something. Like, this was the thing. I didn't realize how much it was going to cost me to observe Passover, right? And being holy and making yourself a living sacrifice for God is costly. It costs something. And what Jesus did costs something. But he's worth what that cost is because of who he is and what he's done for us, right? And so then I was even more convicted because I was like, what you did cost you so much. It cost you everything. And here I am, not even capable of doing the preparation that you require of me, um, because the price was just more than I thought that I could bear and get done. And so I was feeling very convicted about that, but let my failure be a lesson to you. That this world costs us, the sin in this world, um it cost Jesus a lot for him to overcome what our future would have been without him. It cost him a lot. And a lot of times in the feasts that he has laid out in the Bible that we are to observe as Christians, when you go through them, when you actually go through the service, it will open your eyes to things, and I love the way that the Lord uses, kind of us doing certain things in a certain manner, because he was very, we know that God is all knowing and wise, but he was very intentional with that, because as we do them, even people have been doing these things for thousands of years, but as we do them, it brings to remembrance, it gives you that aha moment. This is why. Because as you're going through it, you taste the bitterness, of the bitter herbs. You taste the saltiness of the salty water. You understand it. It helps you understand, even if it's just a little bit, what happened and what people went through, what the Israelites went through. And as a Christian, what it brings back to remembrance, the things that we went to as we were trying to walk with God, and he was turning us around, and he was delivering us from our sin and delivering us from slavery and the bitterness of it, and how sweet sin seems at first, but then too much of it will make you sick and destroy you. And there's just so much benefit into observing this feast and as a Christian. And so whether or not you observe it at the highest level or not, of course that's up to your own convictions. But there was still something, even in my failure, there was still something to learn from it. So, take it from me. If you're going to observe it, be ready. Okay? Be prepared to go throughout your house trying to rid yourself of something that really is almost impossible to get rid of, and make the decision to throw away things that you just bought. Right? So it's a preparation. Really, you should, at Christmas time, you should be thinking about all the things you're not going to get, so that you can be ready to prepare for this Passover season, where things are going to need to be at a certain level in order to observe it properly, with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. Yeah. So I really hope that this message blesses someone. I hope that you don't shy away from observing the Passover because of this. It is definitely an eye-opening experience and a beneficial experience. But definitely be prepared. Be prepared to, as you walk through the process and the preparation, to kind of really understand and feel the weight of what God is asking you to do. And, how it's impossible to get rid of, just like it's impossible to get rid of leaven. It's impossible to rid ourselves of this sinful environment that we're in, but we must try. We must do our best to set ourselves apart, to rid ourselves of it, and to be cognizant of it so that we can rise above and to not ingest it into ourselves, which is why we eat the unleavened bread. You might have to be in a situation where it is around you and that it is around you and you can't rid yourself of it completely, but you don't have to take it within yourself. You can, because a little bit of leaven leavens the whole lump, right? So these are the things that God is getting us to think about as we observe the Passover. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to stop there because my videos tend to get long. I hope this blesses you. Until the next video, be baptized and be blessed.